Senator for Kakamega County, Senator Boni.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order number 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Affairs on harassment of tuk-tuk and bodaboda operators by the police in Kakamega town. In the statement, the committee should, 1, explain the procedures for the arrest, detention, booking, and arraignment of all persons, particularly tuk-tuk and bodaboda operators who have been found to violate the law. 2, state any measures put in place by the State Department for Internal Security and National Administration to safeguard the operators from harassment, including unlawful and undocumented arrests and detention by the police and county marshals, alias county askaris. 3, provide data on all arrests and detentions of the tuk-tuk and bodaboda operators made by police officers and county marshals in Kakamega town from the year 2023 to date, providing reasons for those arrests and detentions. 4, indicate when the county government of Kakamega plans to designate pick-up and drop-off points, as well as parking zones for tuk-tuk and bodaboda operators, as the absence of such zones has exposed them to unwanted and unwarranted harassment. And finally, Mr. Speaker, explain the rationale behind the ban on the operation of tuk-tuk and bodaboda operators past 6 o'clock in the evening, yet that is the considered peak hour. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Senator for Taita Taveta County, Senator Maruma. That statement is dropped. The Senator for Machakos County, Senator Agnes Kavindu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Request for a statement on the safety measures in place on reopening of learners. Mr. Speaker, I arise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee of Education regarding the safety and hygiene measures in place ahead of reopening of learning institutions after postponement due to the devastating effects of the ongoing heavy rains to various schools across the country. In the statement, the committee should, 1, provide a report of all schools that were affected by the floods, stating the level and magnitude of destruction and the measures in place to ensure adequate safety of learners ahead of the reopening of schools. 2, report the resources allocated by the government to ensure schools have efficient water supply and requirement standards of sanitation and hygiene. 3, state the number of persons currently hosted in learning institutions as a result of displacement by the floods and other rain-related calamities across the country. And 4, cause a review and improvement of current measures and guidelines to mitigate the effects of floods and learning institutions, including early warning system mechanism in the prevent future interruptions of the learning in schools by floods. Senator Agnes Kavindu, Senator Machakos County. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Senator for Embu County, Senator Alexander Mundegi.
Request for statement on the conversation of the Seven Forks hydroelectric dams in Embu County from single-use to multi-use dams. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise person to standing under 53(1) to check a statement from the Standing Committee on Energy regarding the conversation of the Seven Forks hydroelectric dams in Embu County from single-use dams in multi-purpose dams. In the statement, the committee should, 1, explain the rationale for the continued under-exploitation of the full potential of Masinga, Gitaru, Kamburu, Kindaruma, and Kiambere dams solely designed for the production of electricity, stating why they have not been converted into multi-use dams to provide water for irrigation and household use within Embu County. Outline the necessary policy and structural adjustment required to enable the distribution of water from those dams to area like Kindune use, Kianjiro use, and Kiambere use for on gravity feed system to irrigate farms in Bere South and Bere North constituencies. 3. State why the State Department for Energy has never considered the impact of conserving hydroelectric dams into multipurpose dams in transforming other sectors of the economy, such as hydro, tourism, horticulture, mirror, cultivation, crops, and fruit farming in addition to electricity generation. And 4, explain the socio-economic advantage versus the cost of repurposing the Seven Forks hydroelectric dams into multipurpose water reservoirs. Senator Alexander Mundegi, Embu County.
Chair Jailak, having explained your absence to the satisfaction of the chair, I vacate my earlier orders and allow you to proceed to table your paper. Proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I indeed want to appreciate you for understanding the predicament that I was in, leading to your earlier decision. And I want to once again appreciate you. And Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the Senate today, 14th May 2024, being the report of the Standing Committee on Justice, Legal Affairs and Human Rights on its consideration of the Houses of Parliament Bicameral Relations Bill, National Assembly Bill number 44 of 2023. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Senators. Before we proceed to the next order, or before maybe allow limited comments on the statements that have been sought, allow me to make the following communication. Senator Funyandarwa, you may do that after the session is done. Now, Honorable Senators, in the Speaker's Gallery, we have 6 students from Kisii University Students Association in Kisii County who are undertaking a one-day education visit in the Senate. Honorable Senators, in our usual tradition of receiving and welcoming visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to them, and on behalf of the Senate and my own behalf, wish them a fruitful visit. I will allow Senator Gloria under 1 minute to extend a word of welcome to the 6 students representing the association.
Thank you, Speaker. Let me take this opportunity to welcome the students to the Senate. This is the upper house. I'm very happy to see you here today, and you should know that we are privileged as Kisii County. We have 3 senators in this house. Our head of delegation is Senator Nyonka, who should be coming in shortly. We also have nominated Senator Esther Okenyuri, who is also on her way here. And I want to welcome you. I hope you get to learn what we do to protect devolution and that you may come back again. Asante.
Now, honorable senators will allow limited comments on the statements that have been sought, starting with the Honorable Maanzo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to make a comment on the statement of Senator Mudigi, the great senator of Embu. Mr. Speaker, when it comes to the...
Just, Honorable Maanzo, I will also allow, though we have already committed that petition to the relevant committee, but you may, if there's a senator wanting to make an intervention of that particular petition, yes, you may take that opportunity when I call you out.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, while supporting Senator Mudigi, I would like to state that, you know, the dams have to be useful to the counties next to them, and also, Mr. Speaker, that the water is also to be useful to the neighborhood. Mr. Speaker, other than generation of electricity, like now that the dams are overflowing, there must be a way of making sure that, Mr. Speaker, that it controls the floods properly, and we really thank God that nothing went extra. Mr. Speaker, on the petition, it is important to note that that petition is on devolution, and devolution is very key. The request may be appropriate, but the framers of our constitution found it that the deputy governor is the principal assistant to the governor. Mr. Speaker, if you go on to force the governor to mandatorily give an assignment as a minister to the deputy governor, then at times when you are a principal assistant, Mr. Speaker, then you may have also so much work while assisting the governor, so that having an extra job like be a minister for finance, as it happens one time in Machakos, it may also overwork the deputy governor. Mr. Speaker, although I agree that relationship has to be regulated further, Mr. Speaker, it's also a very tricky relationship, Mr. Speaker. When a deputy governor decides to undermine a governor, it also becomes very tricky, and there is no regulation as to that. And again also, when a governor is fully in charge, then we have seen historically when things happen to the governor, then automatically the deputy governor ascends to power. And therefore, while we keenly look at this petition, we need to make sure that, Mr. Speaker, the committee understands why the framers of the Constitution left it the way it is. I thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I want to contribute to the statement by Senator Khalwale. Honorable Speaker, Bodaboda are present throughout Africa, even beyond, Honorable Speaker. And this is a critical transport system helping people in a rural part of this country. And they are facing a lot of challenges, Honorable Speaker. Challenges from the police, challenges from criminals hijacking, abducting Bodaboda operators. And Honorable Speaker, I think we need to protect this industry. This is an industry which is very, very important for this country. It has created a lot of employment and is going to create more opportunities for employment for our young people. Yes, we need to have basic traffic system implemented or observed by Bodaboda operators. But you see, even the government has done some very, very important initiatives for the Bodaboda operators. Motorcycles under 250cc is zero rated. And this is helping a young man who is operating this Bodaboda to be saving some money for his future living standard. Honorable Speaker, in support of Senator Khalwale's statement, I would want the government and the police in particular to understand that these people who are operating the Bodabodas are our people, are our young boys and girls. They must be given maximum respect and also be taken care of as Kenyans and as our children. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Senator Sotsi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity just to express my thoughts on the statements by Senator Khalwale and Senator Kavindu. Senator Khalwale's statement on Bodaboda. I think the problem of harassment of Bodabodas is not just confined to Kakamega County, but in all our counties where Bodaboda receive a lot of harassment from the police, from the passengers, from criminals. And I think this House has an opportunity to help the Bodaboda sector by ensuring that the Bodabodas are protected from all these people, and particularly the police, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have criminals, we have insecurity all over the country, but the police find it easy to target the Bodabodas alone. But criminals, the real criminals, are there running after our people and committing crimes. So I think it's important for the committee to really look at the issues before it on this matter and come back with a proper report to this House. On the statement by Senator Kavindu on the reopening of schools following the flood situation. Mr. Speaker, we have seen reports that suggest that a significant number of schools have not reopened because of the challenges around created by the floods. The classrooms were destroyed and the environment is not yet conducive for learning. I think it's important that we are made clear on this matter so that the learning is not discontinued in some schools while other schools are going on with the learning. So I think it's important for the Ministry of Education to really take charge and give Kenyans proper direction on this matter. On the petition, on the matter of Deputy Governor and his role, Mr. Speaker, I think the Constitution is very clear under Article 179 that the executive authority of a county is the governor, deputy governor, and the members of the executive committee. How deputy governors end up being spanner boys, we do not understand how that happens, Mr. Speaker. When the Constitution under Article 179 talks about executive authority is vested in the governor, deputy governor, and the members of the executive committee. Mr. Speaker, I read in today's daily, there is a ruling by one of the courts that governors have no powers to sack or even discipline the members of the county executive committee. I think now we have left everything to courts to interpret. I think it's important for the relevant committee to really look at these issues and advise this House on the way forward. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, I think it's very unfair for deputy governors to continue being managed as small people around in counties. Some have been denied facilities like vehicles. Some have been given vehicles with no fuel. Some are even do not have an office. Mr. Speaker, when I become a governor, I will give my deputy governor full responsibility and powers. Because the constitution is very clear under Article 179 of the constitution. I support.
Senator Kathuri Murungi.
First. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to make a brief comment also on the matter of the governors and deputies. The petition issued in this floor this afternoon. Honorable Speaker, if you look in there on how even the deputy governor enters office in County Government Act Article 32, you realize that the deputy governor shall take and subscribe to the oath of affirmation as set out in the schedule to this act before assuming office. What does that tell you, Mr. Speaker? This shows that the deputy governor is actually subject to the oath of office. And once they join the executive and the governor, the first thing that the governors are doing is to make sure that the county, the deputy governor is, Mr. Speaker, left just to the galleries to read the newspapers, not even attending cabinet meetings because he's an executive member. And Mr. Speaker, these deputy governors, because I've interacted with them, I'll be proposing an amendment to this act, Mr. Speaker, to give deputy governors some power so that when working, they can be part of the system, Mr. Speaker. So in the next few days, we have gone to pre-publication, scrutiny, and I'll be advising the Senate on my proposals on the county governors. Mr. Speaker, in some counties, for example, Meru County, the first governor between 2013 to 2017 did not work closely with the governor. But when Governor Kirito Murongo became the governor in 2017 to 2022, the deputy governor was his CEC member finance. And they worked so closely for 5 years. They did their best. Even though they lost the elections, I cannot say this because they did not work together. It was other issues maybe within the community. But that is a classical example of how a governor can trust his deputy, even in the CEC finance. I was surprised that Senator Manzo said the CEC finance in makwiny was given a lot of work to do by the governor, which I really don't think so. Because, Mr. Speaker, deputy governors are as equal to the task as governors. So there is no task which is so difficult to them. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, this Senate should come up with concrete proposals that will really fence the office of the governor and the office of the deputy governor moving forward. Mr. Speaker, I was also interested with the statement by Senator Kavindu on the reopening of schools. Honorable Speaker, schools were opened yesterday, but as the situation is, still students are in devastated classrooms. Some schools are already submerged. Others have no classrooms and desks. And Mr. Speaker, I don't know whether the government has really come up with the statistics to show which schools are functional and which are not. And really, I want to ask the CS Education and the CS Treasury to come up with a very fast supplementary budget so that these institutions can be supported with finances, the members of National Assembly to realign their NGCDF priorities and work on the schools that have issues so that, Mr. Speaker, the schools can learn properly. Also, the county governments, they have an obligation also to rearrange their budgets so that they can come up with supplementary budgets which will be able to do the small bridges which have been swept, the small roads connecting to schools, so that everybody can get involved, Mr. Speaker. It is only that our house has no capacity to allocate resources. If we end that capacity, Honorable Speaker, this afternoon we cannot be doing anything else but to allocate money across all the schools. But maybe in the future, this will be regarded as the most happy house, which will be able to make such decisions with haste, Mr. Speaker. I thank you very much.
Senator Oburu Oginga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise to comment on the statement sought by Senator for Embu County, Senator Alexander Mundingi, on the issue of the dams which should be used for multipurpose. Mr. Speaker, sir, the dams the Senator is talking about are the major source of electricity for our country. And Mr. Speaker, these dams were constructed sometimes back in 1968. And since then, there have been very little maintenance of these dams, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, they are silting, and these dams are overflowing. They are causing a lot of damages downstream. Mr. Speaker, these dams were designed only to produce electricity, but it is understandable because of the times they were constructed, those times. Mr. Speaker, it is very sad that there are new dams which were constructed much later in the country, like the Sondumiriu Dam, which is still having the same concept as the one of these 7 Forks dams in Embu, Mr. Speaker, single-purpose dams which are just producing electricity and not being used for multipurpose, for producing drinking water, for water to be used for irrigation and other purposes, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I hope that these dams, once they are properly maintained, and the downstream dam, which is planned to be much bigger in the form of, say, the Aswan Dam, Mr. Speaker, will be constructed, and it will also be include multi-purpose use, electricity and irrigation and other purposes, Mr. Speaker. And this is a lesson to the country, Mr. Speaker. Any other dams that we are constructing in the country should now be multi-purpose. They should not just be restricted to electricity. Mr. Speaker, I hope the committee will investigate this and give us a good report in the House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Senator Methu.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to comment on these 2 statements. But I want to restrict myself to commenting on the statement that has been sought by the Senator for Kakamega, Senator Dr. Bonnie Khalwale, on the arrest, detention, booking, and arraignment of 4 persons, particularly tuk-tuk and Bodaboda operators. Honorable Speaker, Bodaboda operators and tuk-tuk operators for a long time have been victimized as people who are engaging in a business that seems to be illicit or illegal, Honorable Speaker. They have been mistreated by law enforcers, either from the national government and the county government. Just a short while ago, Honorable Speaker, when there was a crackdown on the smokers that operate as taxis, the Sientas, Pro Boxes that have been operating and plying in short routes, especially in our rural counties, Honorable Speaker. Case on point, the tuk-tuks and the Sientas that operate from Orkalau to Giugiu, from Orkalau to Nyahururu, from Orkalau to Kariamu, Honorable Speaker. There were something that the police were hiding behind, that these people do not have licenses, these people do not have insurances, Honorable Speaker. And when we held a meeting between those operators, Honorable Speaker, and the members of the National Transport and Security and Safety Authority, NTSA, Honorable Speaker, it was evident that most of these people are compliant. So, Honorable Speaker, law enforcers must stop hiding and harassing people who are engaging in business. Being a Bodaboda operator and being a tuk-tuk operator is just a job, just like that of being the Speaker of the Senate, just like that of being the Clerk of the Senate, just like that of being a Senator of this Senate, Honorable Speaker. So I would want to ask that the committee will ensure it digs very deep to ensure that we arrive, and not only customed for Kakamega, and not only for restraining themselves to this Kakamega town, Honorable Speaker, they must ensure, and beyond the National Police Service, Honorable Speaker, they must go to the National Transport and Safety Authority, because that's another notorious group of people that harass our business people who are border operators and tuk-tuk operators. Honorable Speaker, as I wind up, I also want to give my comment and opinion on the petition that has been laid to the Committee on Justice that is led by Senator Hilary Sigei, Honorable Speaker, in the architecture of the running of a county government, Honorable Speaker, the executive power lies with the governor. The principal assistant to that governor is the deputy governor. Honorable Speaker, in the Article 34, 4 of the County Governments Act, Honorable Speaker, it gives the governor the prerogative of either assigning his deputy a role in as a member of the County Executive Committee or not, Honorable Speaker. And more often than not, as it has been pointed out in that petition, Honorable Speaker, when you are a first-time governor, you do not want to assign roles to your deputy governor so that your deputy governor does not seem to work very hard or does not seem to overshine you or does not seem to be more hardworking than yourself, Honorable Speaker. And that way, he is not seen to be a competition to your office, Honorable Speaker. Once upon a time, Honorable Speaker, there was a deputy governor from a county that I know and that I come from, Honorable Speaker, and he used to say, the way this county has been operating, I have been reduced to a person who is equated to a spare wheel of a vehicle. And a spare wheel can never operate when the four wheels are operational, Honorable Speaker. He was saying that I am here waiting for either the governor to die, become bankrupt, or to become mad. So if he will never become bankrupt, Honorable Speaker, I shall be earning a salary for not doing anything, Honorable Speaker. But then we must also be careful so that we do not assign so many roles as it has been pointed by Senator Gitonga, Honorable Speaker, the Senator from Makwiny, so many responsibilities to the deputy governor that he is not able to be the principal assistant to the governor, Honorable Speaker. But this matter must be looked into. We cannot relegate deputy governors to be flower girls and flower boys, Honorable Speaker. That they don't have anything that they are doing. You cannot be able to tell, I am a senator from Nyandarua, I cannot be able to tell what exactly the deputy governor of Nyandarua does or how he earns his salary. Because you must work to earn. If you're not working, why are you earning? We cannot then leave it to the prerogative. Because some of these marriages, Honorable Speaker, and you know, some of these political marriages are for convenience. It is not that I looked at a certain, my deputy governor and thought that he's a person that we can work together. It is for convenience because he comes from the south, I come from the north, so if we combine our votes, we shall win. After winning, we have no formula of how we shall work for our people. So this is a matter that the JLI committee must put their best foot forward. They must think through it, Honorable Speaker, so that we are able to give justice to the deputy governors and so that we can be able to help. You saw when we are dealing with the petition on the removal of the deputy governor for Kisii, you could be able to tell that the governor and the deputy governor are not working, are not singing the same tune, Honorable Speaker. And you know, Honorable Speaker, the way these marriages are formulated, there's no route for divorce. Once you engage in a marriage, 5-year term. If you come back again, you shall have to stay with your deputy governor for another 5 years. So we must ensure that these marriages work. Whether they want or they don't want, we must ensure that these marriages work. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Senator Beatrice Ogola.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to start by making a comment on the petition. Honorable Speaker, the Constitution talks about a deputy governor as a principal assistant. And a principal assistant, there is no time the Constitution to me has been ambiguous that there shall be a governor, take it to the other way, there shall be a president, there shall be a speaker, as you are here, and a deputy speaker, Honorable Speaker. It is very clear that there has to be order in management, Honorable Speaker. What creates a problem is that there are people who get into this marriage with an arrangement, illusionary arrangements, where some deputy governors think they are going to share power on a 50-50 basis. Honorable Speaker, that is never in the Constitution. So how you work comes to interpersonal and interpersonal skills, Honorable Speaker. And if a deputy governor wishes to be a governor, there's a time frame of after 5 years, you can then work towards being a governor or a president or a speaker. Honorable Speaker, once in this House, Honorable Speaker, the minority had an issue, and the Deputy Speaker of the Senate was on the chair. And I remember very well, and it is on the Hansard, that the Deputy Speaker, who was the Speaker then, said that issue would not be solved until the substantive Speaker was on the floor. So, Honorable Speaker, that shows that there are certain duties that cannot be delegated.
What is the point of order, Senator Fumeru?
I have never made such a ruling when I'm presenting this House, Mr. Speaker. Unless if Senator Beatrice can bring an answer, and they think that I did that, then Mr. Speaker shouldn't be out of order. But also my other point of order was that we know that the marriages are made in heaven, Mr. Speaker. And this marriage between governors and the county deputy governors, what happened that marriages are seen to be made in heaven. And I've heard you quote several in the weddings in Omabay, that now weddings are not working for deputies and their governors. Here on earth.
Honorable Speaker, I only emphasize the fact that the Constitution talks about a principal assistant. An assistant comes in when the principal is aside. So, Honorable Speaker, we must as a House also preserve order in management. And Honorable Speaker, I was only saying that the kind of relationship that is between a governor and a deputy, just as they began, because they made choices, and choices have consequences. Honorable Speaker, they must rely on the interpersonal and interpersonal skills. And Honorable Speaker, they must not struggle over power, but look at the services they offer to the people in the county. Honorable Speaker, I also want to comment on the statement by the Kakamega Senator on the harassment of bodabodas and tuk-tuks in Kakamega town. Honorable Speaker, bodabodas, by their nature now, and because of the state of unemployment in this country, a number of them are very skilled people. Some of them graduates, a number of them from 4 leavers, and tuk-tuk as well. So, Honorable Speaker, there is need for some organization of these bodabodas. The police, by their training, must work with the bodabodas in such a way that they are able to develop them. Honorable Speaker, our counties have sectors like the cooperative docket. This can be put into use where the bodabodas can be grouped into associations, they can be trained, they can be registered, they can be empowered so that they are helped at the expense of being harassed, because these are people also fighting for livelihoods. But on the other hand, Honorable Speaker, we must also as a country look at the welfare of our security, of our police officers. Honorable Speaker, if you go to many of the police stations, that is not to say that they should harass the bodabodas or harass any Kenyan. But the police officers, as a country, we must also invest in their welfare. If you go to police stations, and example is my station in Dewa town, and you see the way in which the police officers are living in deplorable houses, as a country, we must also invest in looking at the welfare of the police officer. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, sir, on the safety and hygiene measures put in place ahead of school reopening by the senior senator, Senator Agnes Mutama. Honorable Speaker, just yesterday I watched on news and saw people in Bomet putting in place on their own a bridge because floods, this bridge had not been completed, and pupils and students have to cross from one village to the other. Honorable Speaker, as a nation, we must look at the safety, not only the safety of students, but the safety of everybody. And that brings me, Honorable Speaker, to also make a comment on the many challenges that are facing our education system and schools in particular. Honorable Speaker, we've seen teachers who are referred to as interns I'm a teacher myself, but that word from the word go was illegal because a teacher by its nature is already somebody who is trained and has gotten teaching practice, so you cannot be an intern again. Honorable Speaker, the welfare of teachers must also be taken care of, and the Teacher Service Commission must put in place a way of solving the issue of the teachers once and for all. Honorable Speaker, I support these two statements.
Senator Samson Chirenge for Nandi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, I want just to, in quick succession, support that deputy governors, Mr. Speaker, be given opportunity or be assigned role. I think the evolution has come full circle. We know what works. And Senator Oburu remembers we were being told, let's pass the constitution to pitishe, alafu turekebishe. That was the mantra when we passed this 2010 constitution, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, coming from the impeachment proceeding against Governor of Siaya, William Odwal, and Governor Robert Monda of Kisii, Mr. Speaker, when you are voting for a governor, you vote for the governor and the deputy governor, even if it is out of marriage of convenience, Mr. Speaker. So whenever you go to the ballot, you vote for the governor and the deputy governor on a joint ticket, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, we cannot allow governors to earn salaries and be reading newspapers and drinking chai and mandasi at the expense of the taxpayers, yet they don't have a job description, Mr. Speaker. Why would governors be worried about the ambitions of deputy governors? Any politician who does not have ambition is not a politician, Mr. Speaker. So what I want to say, let us amend the law, let us give designation, because a deputy governor is elected as a governor, because when you vote, you don't only vote for governor, Mr. Speaker. And remember, even in Robert Monda's impeachment and William Odwal, we were touching the same threshold of impeaching a deputy governor just like a governor, Mr. Speaker. So when it comes, governors cannot have their cake and eat it. The same we treat with the threshold that we put, Mr. Speaker, we must ensure we put in place. Mr. Speaker, we have seen even other governors have gone ahead and frustrated their deputy governors. For example, the governor of Siaya, we saw he cannot access his office. He doesn't have a vehicle, he doesn't have fuel, he doesn't have any allocation of resources, Mr. Speaker. Is that how we want to ensure that we put in place, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker,
what is your point of order
on
Senator
the issue of
Oburu?
Mr. Speaker, sir, Standing Order 105, can he substantiate the fact that the deputy governor does not have a vehicle, does not have a location, does not have fuel, does not, Mr. Speaker, those are very wild allegations which should not be left to go without any substantiation.
Senator Fernande, proceed to substantiate, failure to which you apologize and withdraw.
Mr. Speaker, can I be given up to tomorrow afternoon to provide further substantiation? Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on the issue of floods and reopening of schools, I'm aware there are a number of schools of around 70 plus that are yet to be opened because of security and floods, Mr. Speaker. I heard the President has said 1 billion has been allocated to rehabilitation through CDF. I want to request the Ministry of Education to fast-track the issue of capitation to most of their schools, Mr. Speaker. And even to ask public health sanitation officers to be on high health. Let public health sanitation officers, Mr. Speaker, please visit the schools, Mr. Speaker, because some of these schools, Mr. Speaker, a number of them, Mr. Speaker, some of the toilets, the classroom are not habitable for human beings. So I want to ask the public health sanitation to ensure they check on the issue of floods across the country, Mr. Speaker. I think a very important point, even as we try and reopen schools, let us not reopen schools as a ritual. Let us open schools when it is ready. We have in Baringo a challenge of insecurity, Mr. Speaker. We have most of the schools that they have lost infrastructure. Let capitation be released, Mr. Speaker. And in that, Mr. Speaker, you saw the junior secondary schools in towns were demonstrating in town yesterday because, Mr. Speaker, out of 46, the government has committed in hiring 23,000, Mr. Speaker. I want to ask the JSS in towns to be patient. The government insists of the matter. We are going to hire 23,000 in the first batch, Mr. Speaker. I hope what we need to do, and I saw the contempt that the National Assembly was treating our division of revenue to 415 billion, they should be giving more money to hire the entire 46,000 teachers under JSS program, Mr. Speaker. And as a Senate, Mr. Speaker, we shall not be cowed or intimidated by the National Assembly. You cannot throw away the baby plus the bathwater, Mr. Speaker. The fact that there is larceny, plundering, corruption, ineffectiveness, inefficiency, ineptitude in county governments does not justify us, Mr. Speaker, to deny them resources, Mr. Speaker. So on the issue of interns, I request, I'm aware we are supposed to hire 23,000. Let 46,000 be hired, Mr. Speaker. That fourth point, and it is good that a number of members of Energy Committee is on the issue of Kindaruma of being used multipurpose, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we are having a lot of water. What is the Water Harvesting Authority doing? I saw in Makwiny, all dams, water pans are full. But the Water Harvesting Authority are not telling us about the safety of those dams, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, yours truly, I was the chair who investigated the Solai Dam strategy. In our recommendation, which was adopted by the House, we recommended that the Water Harvesting Authority check out the status and the safety of dams, water pans, and water gullies across the country, Mr. Speaker. If that had been done, there would have been no deaths in Mayoma, Mr. Speaker. If that has not been done, the dams that in Makweny now you are thinking they are full, they can burst their banks at the moment, Mr. Speaker. So as we discuss this issue, I want to challenge the Kenya Power and Lighting Company and Ministry of Energy. Harvest water, ensure we get enough and sufficient, Mr. Speaker, electricity. So that, in fact, I expect this man, Mr. Speaker, and I know Senator Sifuna will be happy, that the cost of electricity will go down. Because we have had hydro energy that is a lot that now should allow the cost of electricity to go down, Mr. Speaker. And that is very important, even as we discuss the finance bill going into the future, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, the water harvesting, the ensuring that we give the necessary energy and going to... And, Mr. Speaker, it is embarrassing in this city. It is raining, there are floods, roads are not passable, but there is no water in the tap. How can you explain? Even I know most Nairobians, Mr. Speaker, don't take shower because it's very cold. But the point I'm making, Mr. Speaker, the use of water should not be on the higher hand, Mr. Speaker. Finally, Mr. Speaker, on the issue of Bodaboda, in conclusion, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for this indulgence that you have given to us today to commend success in a succession manner. The issue of Bodaboda. Mr. Speaker, in where I come from, in Nandi, there is what we call protection fee. There is what we call watching fee. There is what we call stopping fee by traffic police officers, Mr. Speaker. I want to ask our Professor Kithure Kindiki, one of the best performing cabinet secretaries of our times, and I'm happy to be alive that Professor Kithure Kindiki is the Minister of Interior, to crack on the errand police officers who are harassing and imitating Bodabodas, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, can you protect me from Senator Medhu? I know he might be on somebody's payroll, but he should allow me to make my submission, Mr.
You have
Speaker.
30 seconds. 30 seconds.
I'm coming home, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, and you know I want to remind of the famous song of James Hill. James Hill, he sang the culture, that you have to be honest at all times. It's a reggae song, Mr. Speaker. Sang very, and you know, there's more fire. Mr. Speaker, what I wanted to say in conclusion, in that part, the Bodaboda should not be harassed. Mr. Speaker, can you believe you are harassed by police? You are harassed by a multi-credit that you have taken along from. You are harassed by your wife, your girlfriend, everybody, Mr. Speaker. How can you survive as a Bodaboda fellow, Mr. Speaker? Platinum credit is here to harass you. In fact, platinum credit are worse. When you are almost finishing paying for Bodaboda, they cut your Bodaboda disappears, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, our Bodaboda people must be protected. I know sometimes, and I want to ask Bodaboda people on a lighter note, please, as you take our daughters to school, please don't hide them for 4 days like what happened in Kitengela. We want them to be disciplined, let them do their job so that they are not due to parents. With those many remarks, Mr. Speaker, I support it. I thank you.
Now, lastly, Senator Crystal Asige.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I'll rise in support of Senator for Kakameg's statement on Bodaboda sector. Speaker, there's no doubt that the Bodaboda sector in this country has and continues to contribute tremendously to our economic growth. I mean, in the SME ecosystem itself, it has been the one major factor of many SMEs being able to do business easily, and to be able to transport their goods and services across the country. Also,